Welcome to the Diner Podcast, where we eat our lunch for breakfast.
Good evening, sir.
How we doing?
Good. I really like these. I get to do these from the comfort of my home.
I know you don't even have to put pants on. It's kind of nice.
No, it's great. I do have pants on, but
Well,
we get to do these sitting at home. And we get to have a very badass guest on tonight.
Absolutely. Let's bring him on. He is the Unchained King, Brandon Day.
Welcome.
How's it going, guys?
Great. How are you?
Great.
Doing well.
Well, thank you for jumping on. I saw your post that you were looking for a podcast platform, so we very promptly reached out, and here we are.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I got a lot of things going on. This year, 2024, has been undoubtedly the busiest, most productive year of my career, and
hell yeah,
ending on a high note, I hope. So got a lot of things going on that I'm just interested to get people aware of and get the ball rolling.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you decided to come on and talk to us about it. So what all do you have going on? Where do you want to start?
Really the biggest thing that I'm trying to promote right now is we have an event going on December 21st in Fostoria, Ohio, Christmas Chaos. This is the venue that my wrestling school is based out of. It's a fundraiser for the Tiffin Seneca County Fraternal Order of Police Shop with a Cop program.
Oh, cool.
So essentially all the money that will be generated from the event will go to helping families in need shop for the holidays. So big opportunity to make some money for a good organization and do something around the holidays. And at the same time, it's an excellent vehicle for myself and my students that are ready to start wrestling on live events to be able to get out there. We have a lot of really high-end talent coming in. Got Brandon Beretta coming in from St. Louis. He's Bob Wharton trained, wrestles at Exodus Pro, NWA Exodus Pro, and OVW. He's going to be facing David Light, who's this phenomenal young talent that, and it's going to be such a contrast of styles. It's the match that I want to see the most. We're going to see, two young guys that really want it, that just have completely different styles in the ring being able to clash. So I'm really excited about that. We got Santa Claus showing up, who is going to be giving out 20 unopened toys to the first 20 kids that come in with a $5 donation. So we just set that up this week. It's really going to be a good time, and we want to pack the place out, and hopefully it sets us up for future events out of that location. It's kind of always the goal between the venue owner and myself, was to take the school and then develop the ability to run events out of that building on a regular basis after that.
Oh, very nice.
Well, then you kind of have that double whammy of being able to run it as a kind of a double business. Like it absolutely makes sense. Obviously, it would be in everyone's benefit to do that if it was possible, because you have so many more options out of it.
Oh yeah.
How many? Oh, my bad. How many students do you have under you right now?
I have got this class. We have 8.
Okay.
My first graduate was Paris McQueen. She graduated a couple months ago. She's now off on her own, taking her own bookings, kind of forging her own path, which I'm really super proud of her and all the progress that she's been able to make. And then I've got a couple more that their first matches have either just recently happened or will be going in the next 1 or 2 months. One of which, RJ Flores has been with me since the beginning. So that would have been January 7th of this year is when he started. He actually came in as a boxer and MMA fighter, and has really just turned the corner on pro wrestling. So he's super excited to have his debut match. He's a hometown kid there in Fostoria, so that's going to be exciting as well.
Nice. Now, is there like an open enrollment period for your school, or is it just come and go, or how does that all work?
So the way that I have my school set up, when we first started, so that would have been January last year, I had a couple months of prep time to get things right. And I didn't want to make the mistakes that I see everybody else make with wrestling.
Yep.
I didn't want to make the mistakes that were made with me when I started training in 1999. So I wanted to have a very well thought out curriculum in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I had timeframes in mind. There's a lot of schools, and I'm not going to knock any particular place, but unless you're training 7 days a week for hours and hours on end, 12 weeks is not enough to turn you into a pro wrestler. It's not enough to put you out there for you to be safe and competent.
Yeah, that just sounds very dangerous.
Yeah, it's just, and it's the thing that I see virtually every week on the indies is guys that just have no business being in a ring out there in wrestling. So I was never going to put anybody in a position to be a liability to themselves or to each other, or be, a discredit to me and my reputation. I wanted anybody that had my name attached to them for that to be something that would help them, not something that could hurt them later on.
Yeah.
So the minimum time frame for my students is 12 months.
Okay.
They may be ready sooner than that, but I'm not releasing them to run off on their own until at least after that time period is up. And it's proven to be a pretty close timeline for most of them. If they're consistent with attending class and doing all the extra things that I'm telling them to do, which is tape study and going out and doing seminars and coming to events and setting up and tearing down and paying the dues that everybody has to do, then obviously those wheels can move a little bit quicker, and they can be able to get out there. But at the same time, I wanted to run my academy a lot like, I'm a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter.
Oh,
I've been
cool.
doing that for a long time. And I run my classes like a jiu-jitsu class would be run. So I have a very specific, most academies for jiu-jitsu will have a white to blue belt curriculum. And that was kind of my thought process when I developed my curriculum. Like, this is the white to blue belt for pro wrestling. These are the fundamental movements that you need to be able to do. These are the fundamental things that you need to be able to do. And once you achieve that, all right, now we've got a stripe. Now we can move on to the next stripe, and so on and so forth, to the point where at the end of that particular part of the curriculum, you can go have a match.
Yeah,
and you should be able to work with anybody and have a match. It may not be the greatest match ever. Power bombs and Canadian destroyers are not in that part of the curriculum.
Day one, Canadian destroyer. Let's go.
So
break
it's
my neck.
Yeah, and just, but most of all, teaching these guys how to protect themselves and each other, and go out there and perform in a way that is a credit to themselves and does something positive for pro wrestling. That's the biggest thing for me, is I want to leave this business better than I found it. I sometimes can get pretty hot when I see things that I don't like, that I don't agree with. It happened this past weekend. Angry Brandon popped out for a little while and kind of yelled at an entire locker room of people that I didn't know.
You got to do that sometimes, though.
That happens.
That is necessary at times, because people need to hear those things, or you don't get better.
And that's the thing. And I think that's the thing that I've seen most with, not everybody. There's no black and white as far as definitive rules for a lot of things, but as a particular trend with young guys and girls coming into the pro wrestling business, they hear a lot of, "Oh yeah, great job." And it wasn't a great job. In fact, it sucked. It was terrible. And you should feel ashamed about what you just did.
Well,
So
I think that's just the fear of society of, like, you're not allowed to say things that hurt people's feelings. So everybody turns into that, like, people pleaser to an extent, where it's like, yeah, it was awesome. And then in reality, there were 30 mistakes. And it's like, well, somebody should probably fix those mistakes and make sure they don't keep doing those things.
absolutely. And that's my perspective. I'm a very blunt person. I
Yep.
I don't have a lot of that schmooziness or that politics or any of that kind of stuff in me. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. And
takes the
I
guesswork
spoke
out
to
of
a
things.
promoter recently. He wanted me to do something, and I was like, I'll do that if you want, but that sucks. Like, that's a terrible idea.
Your idea is dog shit, but I'll do it. I mean,
Yeah, I
whatever
mean,
you feel.
at the end of the day, I'm getting paid to come in and do a job, and I'm going to do that job to the best of my ability. But hey, here's a way we could do that makes more sense. Here's a way that makes you and your, like, there's a lot of promotions I come in that I just get brought in for 1 or 2 dates. And then I move on to the next thing. So like, this doesn't hurt me no matter what you do to me when I come in there, but it's going to leave your guy looking less than, or it's going to leave your card or your promotion looking less than if we do these certain things. So just being able to be honest and have real criticism of somebody. And, I told Austin Elm, who's my student, who's now had 2 matches, and he's actually booked up for all of December right now, which is really cool that he's just started working. But had a match a couple weeks ago, and we went back and looked it through, and I told him, like, listen, according to me, I've never had a good match. My entire career, I will watch something. I don't care how good I thought it was in the moment. I'll watch it until I hate myself.
Yep.
And I was like, listen, it's terrible for your mental health. Like, it's not a good thing for you to be a happy person, but man, will it make you a better wrestler.
If you want to be
just
successful,
never be
you
happy
have
or
to do things
satisfied.
like that.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude that I want my guys to have. I want them to be, they're never going to be perfect, but I want them to want to be perfect.
Absolutely.
And a lot of guys are okay with just being okay, or they're okay with being terrible and not realizing that they're terrible.
Yeah, they feel like they hit the mountain very, very quickly. And it's like, oh, there's so much to do. What do you feel like the biggest things in your training that you preach to these guys that are like the most important things when you're kind of venturing into this world that you need to kind of make sure to always hit on?
Safety, first and foremost. That's always our job. Like, it's one of the things that I don't like about a lot of modern wrestling is there seems to be no regard for, if a guy doesn't care about his own safety, that's one thing. But if he doesn't care about the people that he's in there with, and I think that can be really apparent with some of the stuff that we see. I mean, not just on the indies, but on TV as well, things that are just flat out like, I would never do that. Like, there's no amount of money you could pay me that would let me get dropped in such a way, or and not even that, but just the things that I just saw a clip the other day of a guy getting thrown through a plate of glass. And the glass was on the outside of the ring, and the glass just sprayed into the audience. Like,
that's an insurance nightmare. It looks like
that's not great.
Yeah, like, and there's people that's their thing, that's what they want. I don't want glass thrown in my eyes as a wrestling fan. Like, that's not something that would have happened when I was 10 years old going to, a WCW house show in Roanoke, Virginia.
Is that just the bar getting like continuously getting set higher and higher? And then like you have the ones that kind of chase that adrenaline. You have the ones that like they feel like they have to outdo themselves every time. So then you almost get that Jeff Hardy approach where everybody's trying to do the swanton from higher and higher heights every show, to the point where it's like, this guy's gonna die. Like, this probably isn't good.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that there's a misconception that you have to keep taking things to a higher and higher extreme to get the same reaction. But that's also when we come to a lot of these styles of wrestling and types of matches where that kind of stuff happens. If you start off a movie by shooting the hero in the head with a gun,
it's a quick movie.
Where can you go from there? Like, now we've got to use a grenade, and then we got to use a bomb, and it just grows from there. But if you start the movie where the bad guy and the good guy meet for the first time and have just a chance off encounter, and then you build that over time, they can have a fist fight at the end of the movie,
and it means something.
And that's the second thing that I teach my guys is, why are you doing this? What is the purpose behind what you're doing? Is it because you just want to do a cool move? Then don't do it. That's not the time for that. I had somebody what's today, Tuesday? So somebody on Sunday afternoon, like, well, if I did this, could I just pick him up and do this? I'm like, why the hell would you pick him up? He's already where you want him. If never pick somebody up. I say that, and I do it too, because we all get caught up in the emotion of what we're doing and stuff. So I'm not perfect by any means, but if you can sit there and think about it, the object of the match is to pin the guy. He's already down there. Why would I want him back up just so I could do this other thing? There's ways to get to that other thing for sure, but let's get there organically. Let's not just pick the guy up and take him to where you want him to be. Let's make it mean something. And so that's the key to it's the safety aspect of it, getting the fundamentals down to the point where you could get in the ring with absolutely anybody from any country, any level of experience, and be able to have a match with them, and then be able to, I did this because of this.
Yeah.
And it made sense that way. There's no, I tell them all the time that it's a subtle difference between good wrestling and great wrestling. And those little details make such a big difference. The average wrestling fan might not understand why it's better. They might not pick up on exactly what it was that you were doing that made it better, but they will know it was better. They will be able to identify, I enjoyed this more than this. I don't know why, but these guys came off better. And that's the stuff that I instill. I want them to be complete performers in every way. And I want them to be a credit to any event that they ever perform on.
Well, I think that helps with like building what indie wrestling is, and just wrestling in general, but indie wrestling in particular, because it was always, anytime we went to a show, and that's kind of why we try to do the shows and stuff we do now, it was always that like guy A versus guy B. There wasn't a whole lot of storytelling. And I get it, it's hard. You're trying to book people, consistently, but it seems like the couple shows we work for and commentate for, you get that like flow of these consistent guys, and the more you're telling these stories, the more people start investing in it, and then you don't have to do the glass pane spots or the swanton off the rafters, and you can tell that story and build it that way, and not have to go to these depths of like literally killing yourself through these spots, because there's that story behind it.
Absolutely. And I mean, if we go back to the 80s or the 90s or whatever it was, like these guys are working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You can't go through glass 7 days a week for a year.
You can, but it's not going to end well.
Yeah, it's not possible. And so they told those stories in a way that connected with people on an emotional level.
Yeah.
And that drew them into whatever because I mean, I'll be the first one to say there's some really terrible wrestling that people look back on fondly too. Like,
yeah,
not all of it was good. Not all of it was great. There were plenty of guys that were on top for a long time. They're like, God, this doesn't hold up. But if they were over, they could do anything. They could get away with anything as long as they were paying off whatever the storyline was. And it's been lost in translation a lot in the days since. It kind of started with, so I did a little bit of training in 99, and then I started really training and had my first match in 2000, kind of riding that apex of what ECW was at the time, right up until it went out of business.
Can I pause you real quick?
Yeah.
What was it in that moment that made you want to start in the wrestling business? Like, what was it that clicked for you right there that made you make that first move? I'm always interested in those stories.
It's really funny. So my birthday's here in about 2 weeks. So I was born like 2 weeks before Christmas.
Okay.
It would have been my second Christmas. I was just over a year old, and I got My Buddy doll for Christmas.
Wrestling Buddy?
It's kind of what they based the Chucky movies off of. It was that kind of a doll.
Okay.
And there's a VHS tape somewhere of me, little 1 year, 2 week old me, waiting patiently for my dad or my granddad to come cut it out of the wrapping, and then they hand it to me, and I slammed it, and I jumped on it. So before I could even articulate the thought of what do you want to be when you grow up, it's all I ever wanted to do.
You're like, I already know. We don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
In all fairness, is this the right one? Because if so, I think he deserved it.
That was it.
Yeah, he deserved to be slammed down, I think. He's kind of scary looking.
How did you find it that fast?
I'm magic.
Good Lord, man.
No, that was it. It's all I ever wanted to do. There was never a question at any point in my life that I wasn't going to be a pro wrestler. And I happened to, when I was 15, there was a promoter in the town that I grew up in, which he's not somebody I want to give any credit to, so I won't use his name. But I learned a little bit from him in his backyard. And then I went to a show it would have been early 2000, and they had a school. I went to the show because they had Steve Carino on there, and this was Carino pre-blonde hair Carino. So this was still in the singlet before he like really got a push or anything ECW. But I just enjoyed his shtick from a fan's perspective. And I mean, it was like a 10-minute walk from my house, the place that it was. Wow. And I remember my granddad dropped me off. I went by myself. There's maybe 20 people there. Like it was really poorly attended, but they had a school. And that was it.
Yeah.
And I started pretty much immediately right after that. I was still in school, but I worked at McDonald's to pay for my wrestling school. And if I wasn't at school or at work, I was going to wrestling practice.
Nice. I always love those. Sorry, I always pause people when they say those things because those stories always fascinate me. Like those moments where it just clicked, where you started like really going after that passion, because that's kind of what we've based our entire thing off of with this is, hey, we love this and we want to do it. So let's put everything we have into it and go after this damn thing. So then anytime we get to talk to people, I love hearing those journeys of like how it started and what that moment was that made you go, fuck, I'm doing this.
It was always, it was always the goal. And it just presented itself to me in a way that, I mean, I was still driving 2.5 hours one way to get direct wrestling practice at that point. My mom took me for a little bit. And then I got my license, and then I wrecked my car, and then I had to wreck my car on the way back from practice at like 3:00 in the morning, and then had to be at school at 7 a.m. But it was just, there was never going to be a stop. Like I was going to fulfill that, and kind of the same thing, just going after it with everything that I had. And I truthfully didn't put everything into it when I should have. I should have done it when I was 18 and 19 and 20. And it's only been the last 10 years that I was like, all right, going all in on my school, not having I'm a full-time pro wrestler. That's what I do. I got odds and ends I do on the side, but my money, my income, my family's livelihood is based on pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I remember that was always the goal, is to make a living at wrestling.
Absolutely.
You walked in, you actually, I believe it was our first time ever commentating. You were down here with us. And I remember whenever you walked in, I think I told you this when we came over and talked to you. I was like, you just look like a wrestler. Like you just have that vibe, that aura about you. Honestly, when we walked up to you, I was kind of nervous because I'm like, this guy might just punch us in the mouth when we walk up to you. Like, I'm not sure how this is going to go.
No, he goes, I look like an asshole, but I'm a really nice guy. And I go, all right, cool, fair enough. But I have a question, like, how supportive was your parents and your family and all that? Because wrestling's not your normal 9 to 5, and we're not wrestlers by any means. We do podcasts, and it's not the norm. Were they supportive? Were they, or?
They were. So I mean, my teenage years especially were really, really rough in my household. My mom was supportive in that she knew that I was going to do it regardless. So she was, it didn't cost her anything except the time to drive me to practice. I was paying for the gas. I was paying for everything by myself. My dad at various times, I mean, he was the one that was watching wrestling in the house when I was growing up. So that's how I first saw it. My grandparents hated it. But but he recognized after a while, like, okay, he's really doing this. Like, this is what he wants to do. So he was supportive in that way. But also, for the most part, I moved out of my parents' house when I was 16 and lived with my grandparents after that. And so it really wasn't, I was very fortunate that I had, and they've both since passed now, but I lived there into my mid-20s until I was out living on my own, living with my grandparents. And they just kind of let me they knew I wasn't out getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And so they never put any restrictions on me about when I had to be home and what I had to do. Like, if I didn't come home one night, they knew that I was okay. And this before cell phones, so it's not like they could get a hold of me anyway.
Yeah.
As like parents, they had to have seen that drive. Like, what you were doing, you were clearly very passionate. If you're driving 2.5 hours one way to go to wrestling practice, you're knocking all these things out, you're staying up on all your stuff. Like, it's kind of hard not to respect that and be like, hey, go for it. Like, if you're that passionate about this, yeah, keep at it.
I was very fortunate in that regard, that they supported me, at least by not getting in the way. They never told me no.
Stop doing it, and you're an idiot. Don't do this shit. Like, it's very easy to fall to that.
And there's so much of that. That's what a lot of people get whenever they want to do something that's considered abnormal, like trying to be an artist or trying to be a performer of some kind. Like, it's kind of, I think it's changed now in today's society where you can get away with, having a more eccentric lifestyle, I guess, if you want to put it that way, or doing something that's considered abnormal. But it wasn't back then. There were plenty of people that, would say, you're never going to accomplish anything. You're never going to make anything of this.
Well, now you're going to have to go, because the Tesla robots are going to take over, and then there's going to be no regular 9-to-5 jobs. So you better figure out something to be creative, or we're all going to die.
Yeah.
God, here we go.
So you have that to look forward to as well. You're going to have to be creative now.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy that today sent me match graphics. You have a match coming up this weekend, triple threat match, and one of the guys is Ashton Adonis.
Yep.
Ooh, our champion.
Yeah, our champion. You faced each other before. I think the last time he sent me, it was a controversial finish. You had him in a Taz mission. He got you a pin, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah,
something weird like that.
God, I don't remember what that.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was Pro Wrestling Thunder.
Okay,
Like, I've had a lot of matches.
Yeah,
there's a lot of matches.
I was talking to one of my students, and they were like counting their matches on their hand and like trying to remember all of them, and they're only at like 6. So I was like, I remember when I could do that, but it was 23 years ago. Like,
I'm wrestling 6
I don't remember
a week.
what I did last week. And where was I this week? I had that. All right, I know where it was this past week. But no, Ashton's somebody that I've kind of had my eye on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I actually didn't realize he was as new into the business as he is. He's only a year in. And
he's very good for
I knew
being
Jake,
a year in. Like,
his
very,
trainer.
very good.
So that's one of those things that I always want. I want somebody to, where were you trained? Oh, by Brandon Day. Cool. And then they feel at ease. Like, that's what I want. Yeah. And I get that with anybody that I know came out of Jake Oman's school. Mm-hmm. And he has it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very encouraging to him to get out particularly get out to Exodus Pro and do the preface with EC3. Because he's a guy that can just find little nuggets of something in somebody and really figure out a way to pull it out of you and make you better. Mm-hmm. So I thought that would be really good for him, and he did it. And then it ended up getting him a spot, on the card the next day. I know he's down at OVW, which is something I'm where I'd been so long since I had done like an actual physical for a wrestling license. So I got to get my Kentucky license for 2025 to be able to go and do that. But no, he's going to be great. Mm-hmm. If he continues on the path that he's on right now, he's a bigger human being, which already makes him, look better than most guys on the indies. Yep. You know, when somebody says you look like a wrestler, that's the biggest compliment you can possibly give to me.
Oh,
like,
good. I thought you were going to punch me in the mouth. So that's a very good thing.
No, I'm real old school in that way that you need to look like a wrestler. Not everybody has to look the same, but if I put you on a poster, you look like a wrestler. If you're wearing a t-shirt and, you know, got a Superman tattoo, or, you know, no body, no tan, no whatever, and you're wearing shorts that you got from Walmart, I'm not paying to see that.
Yeah.
And I don't know who would.
That's one that, like, I feel like same thing when Ashton walked in that first show, like, I remember he was like rocking out like an all white thing. Like, he just, again, has that look. He had the tan, the height, the build. Like, you just see these guys and it's like, oh shit, okay, that guy's got something. Like, there's that, I don't know, just that it's such a cliche way to say it, but that it factor, like, and he really does have that, like, potential to really be that guy. Like, he just has that look too.
Yeah. And it's going to be a good time. The other guy in that match is Freedom Ramsey, who just got his WWE ID contract, which is so funny. I had seen him at the previous couple of CIW events that I was on, but I hadn't watched him wrestle. I didn't know where he was from. I didn't know anything about him. I just kind of peripherally saw him. And then I wrestled him. And I was talking with Michael Elgin afterwards. I was like, where's this guy been? Like, why is he not? How do we not see him other places? Like, where is? And I just was going on and on about him. Like, he looks good. He can talk. He can wrestle. Like, he was, you know, I don't want to use the word perfect, but like, we worked together perfectly, all those types of things. And then like 4 days later, he got the idea. I was like, all right, well, somebody had their eye on him already. Like, so that was a good thing as well.
But it makes you feel good as like you saw that as well. Like, okay, cool. I got an eye for this shit. Cause like, yeah, you very clearly saw it as well.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the safety. I never, like, that wasn't ever something that like I contemplated, that like you guys all do it so well and so fluently that when you do see something get fucked up, it's like, oh yeah, like these are just dudes out there doing this, and like those things can absolutely happen. What are like some of the bigger things that you preach on to keep, like, I don't want to get like too deep into it because I know there's like certain tricks to the trade and everything, but like, what are some of the things that you guys can do to make sure you're being safe? Because that is kind of scary when you start thinking about it.
It is, and it's not for everybody, and that you kind of weed out people pretty quickly. I
bet.
You know, I don't beat up my students. Like, that was something that happened to me. Like, I mean, especially 15, 16 years old, I had grown men just beating the shit out of me just because they could, and never any explanation as to why. Just because they could. Yep. And I don't ever want to be, I think there's a time and a place to physically put somebody where they need to be if you need to, and you need to be able to handle yourself and everything, but that doesn't accomplish anything. But just taking bumps, just running the ropes, hitting that elevator cable. And I teach my guys to hit the ropes hard. So I want the ring to move every time they hit it. Just that alone hurts. And you have to develop a callus to that. I think the biggest thing that I want my guys to do, don't ever do something that you're not comfortable with. Like, never be afraid to say, hey, I've never done that before. I don't feel cool with that. You know, maybe can we walk through it? Can we figure it out? Like, can we compromise something like that? Like, anybody that gives you shit about something like that is an asshole anyway. Like, and I'm not worried about what their opinion is. I never want to put somebody in a position where they feel unsafe. You know, if they volunteered, hey, throw me. Well, all right, I'll throw if you want me to, but I want to put you down in a safe way. But just being prepared and not going into something, you know, we can have a wrestling match where we call everything from start to finish in the back, and we can have a wrestling match where we call everything out in the ring, but you don't ever want to start doing something without knowing what the end of it is. Like, it's something, even when we're doing drills at the school, they go to send somebody off the ropes. If they don't say what they're doing, then don't go. Like, you never do that in a wrestling match. Just let somebody fling you around and you have no idea what's coming next. That's a good way to get hurt. really easily if you just, or second worst case scenario is you just stop and look at each other like deer in the headlights, and now you've broken the illusion of what it is that we're doing. You know, people suspend disbelief to watch a wrestling event and believe in what's happening in there. And the minute you give them something that doesn't add up, and it doesn't, like, spots get blown, stuff happens, like that happens. But when you stop and you're like, what do we do? It's over. It's like somebody called cut while you're in the theater watching a movie. They're like, no, I need you to be standing over here instead. Okay, action. And then you go back to it. I'm out of the movie now. I'm not into whatever was going on at that point.
Well, isn't the mindset basically like no one else knows you fucked up for the most part? Like it's supposed to be a real fight. Just make it look like something. At least don't stop. No matter what you do, it's almost like improv. Just don't stop. Like play off of whatever the hell happens and just keep. Because it's amazing how you guys can, like, obviously we do the commentary, so we're just in and out, wandering around, doing our thing. But we get to kind of watch how the interactions happen, and then how it translates to the ring. And it fascinates me every time, because I don't like, I'm watching it happen, and then we got to be in a rumble, and I kind of was just given the gist, give or take 30 seconds before we walked out there. He's like, oh, do you want to do something? I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do this, and this. And I'm back there pacing going, what the fuck did he just say? And it's like, okay, cool, I'm in. I'm going to go try to do it. But like the way you guys can go back there and mimic this and then go out and put on that type of performance it's fascinating.
I don't see how you remember everything, but you're calling back there. Fuck, I forget stuff walking from the back of the curtain to the front of the curtain. So I'm like, oh, they're magicians.
It's something. I mean, it's an acquired skill. Like I have terrible short-term memory, but it's also like when I teach my guys, why are you doing what you're doing? If the why doesn't add up, it's way harder to remember what that next thing is. If what I'm doing makes sense, then whatever I feel like the next logical step is probably is the next logical step if you put it together the right way. I always get amused, and I get into this habit where my guys will ask me how do you do this? And I'm like, I got to do it. I can't just sit here and tell you. Like I do stuff on muscle memory, so I don't really think about it. I have to like sit down sometimes and go, okay, hand here, this, do all that. But I always want them to be around me when I'm calling my matches and putting stuff together with other people, because I want them to see what that process looks like. And what I've come to realize is we barely speak real words during that whole process.
It's a lot of just like moving around.
Give me one of boom, pop up, no, down, up, over, go home. All right, see you out there. And then they have no idea. We didn't even say anything, but I know what we were talking about. Like, I have no idea about what it was. So, you know, and it's just there's no other performance art on earth that equals pro wrestling. There's nothing that has that live element, that has that planned and then improvised and physicality, and like it's everything all at once. And I think that's why people are drawn to it, even now, knowing, you know, in the era post kayfabe where we know what we're doing is not a legitimate competition. But man, if I can get somebody to walk away from an event that I'm on going, I don't know about all that other stuff. That Brandon guy, like, he hit that guy. He didn't like him at all.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what I want every time. And I want them to question everybody else. Like, all right, was that? Now, if he did that, was that? Like, it just builds credibility for the entire business, and they come back because they want to see what the next step of that story is. Or was I right? Was it real? Was it not real? What happened there? And if you go into that with that right attitude, I think that's a problem in the business now too, is guys, and I hate this word, but guys, well, they all know it's fake anyway, so why are we trying to make it seem real? Like, that's exactly the problem. You have to start with I need to make them believe it's real. That's the only way this really works. And so if you start from the standpoint that, well, it doesn't matter, you've already lost me as somebody that really wants to explore the art form in a way that connects emotionally. I can go to the circus and see acrobats do flips and breathe fire and fight lions and stuff. And that takes a certain amount of skill, and that's impressive. But I only need to see that once. When it comes back in town next year, sure, maybe I'll go. But if it's the same show, why am I going to bother? Wrestling event should be different every time. Every match on a card should look different. Everything should have its own little world that it lives in, and everything should build. It's what I love about NWA Exodus. Everything works. Like everything moves along the way that it's supposed to, and it's done purposely. It's not from this, hey guys, go do whatever you want. Like, no, we have a vision for what this is going to be. I had a conversation with about the way they wanted to finish a match. And again, I was like, hey, I'll do that if you want, but I hate it. Here's why I hate it. This is just not. And I gave a couple different, and at the end of it, they were like, yeah, I understand why you don't want to do that, but we're doing this after that. We're doing this next month, and then we're doing this in February. I was like, okay, I get it. Guys that just wrestle for themselves in the moment and don't take into account everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
It shits on everything else around them. And that's where I have a problem, is selfishness in that way. Like, you're here to do a job, do the job that's asked of you, do it to the best of your ability. If you have questions about it, obviously raise them. Anybody, when I've booked shows in the past, if you have a better idea than me, cool. I want the best idea possible.
Yeah. That's what makes your product better.
Absolutely. Uh-oh.
Oh, we froze.
Uh-oh, we froze. Hello? Hello?
Uh-oh. 'Tis all frozen.
It froze.
Nope, I think he's back.
Oh, we're back. Okay. Yeah, we're back. Sorry.
So is that, in all fairness, though, if we all know that TV shows and movies aren't real, but if the actors showed up with that same mentality, these movies would fucking suck. You wouldn't want to go watch any of them. So it's kind of that same concept. I never understood that in the indie scene. I was talking to a couple guys about this a while back. When you hear guys come and they kind of almost scoff at where they're at on the card or things like that, and it's like, well, in all fairness, aren't you just here to put on the best performance you can wherever you're at, and then you have that tape to continue to further what you're trying to do? The people here know where you're at, but in all fairness, unless it's just a fully recorded show, nobody has any idea where you are on the card.
No, and it's irrelevant. You can have, if you're match 1, have the best match 1 you could have. Don't have the best match 7 you could have if you're match 1.
Yes.
Have the best match 1. Have the same thing for match 2 or match 3. Whatever it is, if you're the 5-minute cool down match before the main event, have the best 5-minute cool down match you can have. But understand that that's your job.
Yep.
Is to give the crowd a breather so that the people can be back up for that main event. It's why I hate the term banger. And guys are like, oh, let's go have a banger. I'm like, not every match should be a banger. Sometimes I need a dip so that the thing that I really need to get over has the ability to do so. When you're wrestling last on an indie show, it's miserable because you're 9. What was I on? I would have been match 10 on the event that I was on this past weekend, and I managed to get it adjusted to where I was match 9. But on most shows, by the time you're out there, unless you've got a really produced show where guys are being held accountable for what it is that they're supposed to do, there's nothing left for me.
Everyone feels like they're being held hostage at that point. They're like, yeah, you're wrestling.
Pull the gun out and shoot the guy in the head because I don't have anything left.
Yeah.
So, and it's also the selfishness also comes in where, Brandon Day has lost a lot of matches. Brandon Day has won a lot of matches. Josh has never won or lost a single pro wrestling match in life, ever.
Yep.
Not one single, once when I couldn't use my name. But so when they put themselves in this position where, well, I can't look weak or I can't do this or I can't, you're not doing anything. It's not you as a person. It's your character as a performer. There's a time to stand up for your character for sure. Yeah. Because if you just get destroyed over and over and over again, at a certain point, you're useless as a character.
Yeah.
There's a time for that. But
But don't you also want to show your range as like a performer? Like you want to show that you can lose well. You want to show you can win well. Like because like you said, there's a spot for everything on the card. I think that's why like the Attitude Era seems to be so much regarded. There was a story for everybody. Everybody they've talked about it multiple times where everyone had the hook on the music. Everyone had a storyline going, and you were invested in the show top to bottom. Now you sit and watch a lot of the shows and you're invested in two storylines, and the rest of it it's like, all right, I'm going to go wander around and do things. Like it's hard to keep, even on the main products, it's hard to keep your attention on that stuff. So having an indie promotion and not doing any stories or anything, like it's tough to get that draw consistently, I guess.
Well, and it's also, I think it's an inability to understand what a story can be at the indie level. It doesn't have to be something that plays out over 6 months. It can play out over 6 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
If a guy comes, and this is the thing that I teach my guys, you have about 10 to 30 seconds from the time you walk through the curtain to explain who you are in a paragraph form where somebody can go, okay, that guy's a clown. That has bad attitude. This guy's a tough guy. This guy's a rich, arrogant guy. Whatever that thing is, you got about 30 seconds to get it over. So you got to tell that story right away. Then the next guy has to tell his story. Now, what is the story that we're going to tell together? It can be good versus evil. It can be big versus small. It can be, I walked out here and my leg was all bandaged up already. Clearly the guy's going to try, and I don't need a promo for that. I don't need to film anything for that. I don't need a special finish for that. I don't need anything for that. If I know what I'm doing and I have somebody that's halfway competent to participate on their end of the story, the flip side of that is where indie promotions try to run a storyline for 9 matches and they got something here that doesn't, and it's too much for someone to digest all at once. They don't take into account that you get commercial breaks on TV. You got the benefit of commentary explaining things to you, to an audience that is then able to take in backstage vignettes and promos and all these other things that add up to it. When all I've got is wrestler A coming out and wrestler B coming out, it's on them to figure it out on their entrance and bell to bell.
Yep. Well, if you get a whole card of people doing different versions of that and telling their own story, you get a hell of a show. Like you have the ones that have the big story because they're consistent people that are at the show every week, month, whatever you run, and you have their long-term stories. You have these couple short-term stories. You have things that just randomly popped off backstage or in the ring or literally anything just to keep people going, wait, what the hell's going on? Like you want to keep that attention grabber constantly because it's a very easy thing to, I guess, venture off of and lose interest in.
Oh, I mean, to get me to leave my house and spend money on something cold. Yeah, like I don't want, I've supposed to have gone and seen Moana 2 twice now, and I keep finding reasons not to go do it.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want to see it, but I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go out and be with a bunch of people and spend a bunch of money. You go to the movies with 3 people, you're $75 in the hole by the time you get the tickets and the popcorn and the drinks. And I think that's another thing that doesn't get talked about enough at the indie level. You're asking for a big monetary commitment to get a family to come out to your show on a Saturday night once a month.
Absolutely.
So you have to give them what it is that they're looking for in that and make a value of it. And you also can't do things that drive them away. If you've got a family that's coming out to your event, I watched this happen in a match. It was about 2.5 years ago. I was in a cage match. I was bleeding like crazy to the point where puddles of blood where you could have swam in it. It was overboard, to say the least. And I was told afterwards a mom had her 2 kids and was pulling them out the door. And it was like, is he okay? And she's like, we're not staying to find out. And they never came back. And that was a lesson to me at 22 years in the business. Just because I think that this match needed that, did I cost us 3 paying customers forever because we went too far beyond, like, there's plenty of people that would go, no, that was the right choice. Some people just aren't there for it. But you got 5 and 6-year-old kids in the audience. They don't really need to see that. They don't need to see thumbtacks and barbed wire and somebody getting killed, or, you know, overly sexualized promos and innuendo or cursing and things like that. Like, the money on the indies is in being a family-friendly event, unless you're, you know, at that other step where you're only attracting the male 18 to 34 wrestling fan demographic. If that's your goal, that's a niche market.
But you have to advertise for that, because otherwise you get people showing up and you got crazy shit going on and they're like holding their kids going, oh, fuck, this isn't good. We got to go.
Precisely. I mean, I've been on shows where I had my daughter with me. I'm like, you know what? I don't really want you to see this. Like, this is not something that I need you to be a part of.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the blood real quick. When that happens and there's just like, it's like pooling up, do you have that moment where you're like, oh, fuck? Like, did something wrong happen? Or like, do you just know I've always been curious about that.
So I've had 3 instances where I was like, oh, this may be a problem.
What's up?
So one was that cage match. I ended up, and I don't go to the hospital for anything, so I super glued it myself together, but I got about an hour away from the building and I just felt like, I was like, uh-oh. And I had blood everywhere in the car. I had to stop, and I stopped at an Anytime Fitness and went in to take a shower and try and get myself cleaned up. On the following Monday, that gym called my home gym to see if I was alive, because they saw the video footage, because they found all these bloody towels in their bathroom over the weekend. And there was blood all over the floor. I tried to clean it up the best that I could, but I just couldn't clean it all the way up. They're like, is this guy alive? Like, is he okay?
Was anyone in there when you walked in this building? Because I can only imagine their face when this monster of a man walks in, just coated in blood, like wobbling through, like, I need a shower.
There was like 3 people in there. It was like midnight on a Saturday night. So there's like 3 people working out, and they just watched me go. And I mean, I dripped blood all the way across the whole gym, all the way to the bathroom. I wrestled Shane Douglas in a dog collar match on New Year's Eve a year ago. And I got thrown into the post. And as soon as that happened, I was like, uh-oh. Because I was just gushing. And kind of the same situation. I didn't even get dressed. I stayed in my wrestling gear. I drove to the hotel. And the person that was with me, I sent them in. I was like, you need to tell the person at the front desk what they're getting ready to see. This man in knee-high yellow leather boots and black leather underwear covered in his own blood is about to walk through here and ruin every white towel and sheet that they have in this hotel. Please don't call the police. I will be okay.
I saw pictures of that after your match, and I was like, holy shit.
That was gnarly.
That was one of those overboard moments. I did have one other time where I ended up passing out legitimately afterwards, and I was just thankful that somebody found me in the bathroom. So I mean, time and a place. That's not something I'm doing every week. That's not something I'm doing every year.
And it does look badass when it's done right. Like, I feel like there for a while, AEW became like, it was like just every other match was blood, and then it kind of becomes this like laughing point where people are like, oh, look, they're bleeding again. But then you have these ones that never have blood. Then when it happens, it's like, oh shit, did something go wrong? And then you kind of have that, like, again, you're just suspense of disbelief, and you have people buying in going, wait a minute, like, because obviously people know what's up for the most part. Like, you're just trying to put on that show to let people sit down and check out for those couple hours, and you get to like go into like a real life movie. Like, you're in there. You get to be in that action movie for a couple hours.
Absolutely. And that's what it comes down to. Like, it's we get to be, and I won't say this about myself, but like, pro wrestlers are the closest things to real life superheroes that exist.
100%.
You don't get to see Captain America fight Thanos in real life, but you can watch Hulk Hogan fight Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
And they're actually, they're there. They're in like looking, I wrestled the Barbarian when I was 18 years old. I was like 18 in 2 months. And just when I met him for the first time, and he still remembers me, like when I see him now, he's like, "Oh, you used to be so fat and skinny at the same time. You were so young."
Thanks, man.
And
Appreciate it.
I was like, "Yes, sir, I was." But just remember looking at him like, I'm getting ready to wrestle a barbarian. Like, he's a foot taller than me, and he's 300 pounds, and he's, he chopped me with his hand, and he managed to hit my entire chest and my throat at the same time because his hands were so big. He headbutted me so hard that my knees buckled and I just fell down.
Oh, shit.
I was like, that Islander Samoan headbutt thing's a very legitimate thing, it appears.
You got to feel it firsthand.
Yeah, I was like, all right, this is no joke. Like, this is how, and that was the first wrestler of like, a name wrestler, a big name wrestler that I ever got in the ring with. And he was so gracious, and he was he still is one of my favorite guys to ever be around in the wrestling business. I probably haven't seen him in 7 or 8 years, but if we were at a show together this weekend, we would hug, and he would remember my name, and he would know who I was, and he would remember the matches that we had 20 years ago.
Nice. Is that kind of how that works with, like you were talking about earlier, being able to just call it in the ring and is that just like kind of a chemistry thing where it's just two guys who have been doing it a long time? You kind of have that like feel of the crowd, feel of the match kind of thing, or because like that seems super stressful.
There's different levels to it. I think chemistry is, you can be, have two 15-year veterans who've had a lot of matches and have zero chemistry, and they just go out there and have a sting. Cody Hawk, who's been around forever, is a guy I respect a ton. On paper, he and I should have had a bunch of really good matches, but they sucked. Like, we were and we figured out what it was. We knew what the problem was. We were both so used to being the leader in a match that neither one of us knew how to follow. Okay. And so like we figured out what the problem was. And then once we figured out the issue, we had a good match after that. But I've also gotten in the ring with guys that I've never touched before that we just had, you come with a similar background and you come with a similar mindset. Aaron Williams is one of those guys for me. Like, the first time we wrestled, we had never touched, and we like the same kind of wrestling. We have the same kind of mindset when it comes to wrestling. And so it was easy to put that together, and we don't have to call all of it because we have the same, library of core wrestling memories that we can always dip into. Like, hey, you remember when Austin and Steamboat did this in 93? And then we can do that thing and we can remember it. There's a lot of guys that are coming into the business now that grew up on John Cena. And so they have a much different database than I did growing up in the 80s and the 90s. Yeah. My favorite wrestling was WCW from 90 to 94. Like, really? That was when business was the worst.
Yeah.
The matches were the best. You had Sting and Vader and Austin and Regal and Steamboat and Pillman and Rude and Bobby Eaton, Arnett. You had all of these guys having just these incredible matches that stand up to this day. And it's probably one of the least watched eras in pro wrestling. That's what wrestling is for me. I want to recreate what that did for me when I was 10 years old.
They were a lot more brute force, less of the like flashy, flippy. It was all more so the stories, every movement. Like, I assume that's why it always seemed like it meant something when you go back and watch those. Like, they're not doing the crazy high spots and all of the flip stuff, so everything has to kind of mean something. So you get a lot more verbiage, you get a lot more of the physicality in the ring, less of the like jumping around everywhere, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you go back, Ricky Steamboat against Rick Rude, Beach Blast 92 or 93 or maybe 91, 30-minute Iron Man match.
I think it was 92.
One of the best matches you'll ever see. And I explained this to somebody the other day. The way it started was just incredible. Steamboat brings out his family, and so he's got his kid in the ring. And then Rude just kind of takes a half step towards him, and Steamboat just lays into him and just beating the shit out of him for like 5 minutes because you're not coming near my family. Like, that's something that everybody can understand. Yeah. And Steamboat runs into a knee in the corner and goes down and gets pinned. And he made it look so good, and it meant so much because at that point he had beaten Rude from pillar to post, and as he should, right? He's defending his family, but he messed up. He ran in when he should have waited a second, and then the whole match builds upon he made this mistake. How's he ever going to recover from being down 1-0 at the 5-minute mark of a 30-minute match? And it's without the crazy high spots. I mean, they still did stuff. Yeah. They still did high spots for that era. Those are the kind of things that I want to recreate. I want to tell those stories. I want to have those matches where, man, that was good. That was real. Like that's how that should go. Like that's that, bar fight in a Western movie where the good guy finally gets the bad guy cornered or whatever it ends up being. Yeah. And that's what we should always be aspiring to be, I think.
That's what the back of an indie locker room should be. Just picking out who really doesn't like each other, tell them why you don't like them, and then create your feuds from that. You'd have a hell of a card. You'd have people legit beating the shit out of each other. It'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
I have one last question.
Yep.
Out of your storied career, what is your all-time favorite match?
Oh.
So I did a 60-minute Iron Man match, tag team match in 2013. Aiden Chambers was my tag partner. He and I trained at the Team Taz dojo together. He was a ECWA Super 8 Cup winner early in the inception of that tournament when it was still going on. And he and I kind of both had this similar problem where we did the training with Taz, and then the next step was dark matches, like getting us tryouts at TNA. Like that was I think there were 4 of us that went, and then he and I were the next 2. Then I had shoulder surgery and he broke his leg in a car accident.
Oh, damn.
And by the time we were ready, that was all done and that wasn't happening anymore. And we just kind of ended up being tag team partners. We were never supposed to be, we were supposed to end up feuding with each other. Like that was the whole point of putting us together, but we just had so much fun. And we had such good chemistry as partners where he was a little more arrogant and more like a heel. And I was kind of a little more straightforward, but I was a babyface, and we made it work. And we ended up working with 2 guys, Jeff Early, who's now a pastor in South Carolina. So he's been retired for a couple of years now. He was my favorite opponent for years and years. And a guy named Zach Hilton that's no longer actually, I think I'm the only one that's still wrestling. Aiden will pop up every now and again when he feels froggy, but we did a program over the course of 2 years, and the culmination of that, like the pinnacle of it, was we did a 60-minute Iron Man match as a tag team, which I had never seen done before.
No.
Yeah.
And we went, it's not like we paced ourselves in the first 20 minutes. We went at it hard the entire time. And one of the things that we kind of tied into it was like, all right, how can we make a tag team match last 60 minutes and keep it interesting? Like, what are some of the things that we can do? And in the lead up to the match, the Neil Sharkey was the acting commissioner of this was for AWA Fusion in Virginia. There must be a winner. Like he made that was a big point of when we put this match together, there must be a winner. So we get about 40 minutes in and it just breaks down and we're fighting on the floor, but we can't get counted out because we're all out there and it won't do us any good if we do. So he comes out and stops the match and says, if this is the way this is going to be, I said there was going to be a winner. There's going to be a winner. From now on, the rest of the match is false count anywhere, no disqualifications. So we got to have almost a completely separate match.
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
the last 20 minutes. And it was.
Did you just call that on the fly? Was that just one of those like, well, they're all out there, so?
No, that was something that I had in mind. Like, I'm really proud of that match because of all the work that we put into it and just the time and the thought that I put into not just the match, but the entire story that we did. And we all kind of came out of that, Aiden broke his wrist. doing a frog splash.
Oh my God.
I went to give Zach a belly to belly over the top through a table, and we missed.
Oh.
So his feet hit the table, and then he took a flat back on the floor.
Oh,
And the craziest part of the match was we had a table, and my fiance at the time, my wife now, she had this busted up looking table in her parents' garage. I was like, hey, can we take that? She's like, yeah, we're not using it for anything. So I took the table. She's like, I think my grandfather made it or something. Like it's whatever. So we took the table. Tables are hard to come by anyway now, and they're super expensive.
mm-hmm.
We go to do the finish is me doing that table bump, and then we get to the finish after that. Table doesn't break. Bring the table in the ring. Powerbomb Jeff on the table. Table doesn't break.
That thing was sturdy. It was built with love.
So Aiden had broken his wrist, so he couldn't do the next thing we had planned. And I'm 245 pounds at this point, like one of my heaviest weights. And I just remember putting Jeff on the table and telling him, I'm sorry, I love you. And I went up top and I double stomped that man with every bit of my weight. And we just bounced off the table.
Oh, man. Oh, God.
Table in human history.
So
one guy's got a broken
that.
sternum
I
at this
hit
point.
him 3, 2, 1. Time is up. We win something like 6-5 falls or something like that.
Yeah.
Come to find out later, my wife's grandfather made furniture for a living.
Oh shit!
Oh,
like, well, that was not told to us ahead of time. We probably would have put a different fucking table. But
do you still have the table? Do you still have said table?
What's that?
Do you still have said table?
No, we ended up using it in a TLC match about 9 months later, and we still couldn't break that son of a bitch.
I was hoping we say Thanksgiving dinner on that table.
I mean, it was the sturdiest table I've ever been a part. At one point, I stood on the table, and Jeff ran off the apron with a flying neck breaker. So it took both of our weights at the same time, and we just bounced off. The sturdiest thing I've ever seen.
Okay, I feel bad. We've kept you way longer than we said we were going to. But have you had any other moments like that where you're really trying not to laugh because what you planned is either not working or you're just really having to fuck somebody up to get something across, and it's like, I'm so sorry, but I got to make this work.
I mean, I've had lots of moments where, because I this is my job, right? So I treat it really seriously. But if you're not having fun at it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. Because I mean, it's not like I'm making enough money to justify being miserable every time that you're there.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of funny moments that stand out. I think probably maybe the scariest moment for me took place not too long ago, where I got in the ring with a guy that just was not doing very well for either one of us. And I gave him several opportunities to right the ship. And then the final thing was he kicked me in the face so hard he knocked my contact out.
Oh shit.
And
that was kind of sound like a lot, but that's the worst feeling ever. Whenever that thing goes flying, then you can't see shit. It is the worst.
It was bad. And I mean, I was already real irritated up to that point because of everything else that he had done. And I mean, it's not like he blew a bunch of spots. That happens. Like, I can't be mad at you. Like, I can be mad that you are not good at what it is that you're doing, but I'm not going to hurt you for doing that. I'm not going to hurt anybody. Like, it's never the goal.
But when you get your contact kicked out of your fucking head, that kind of changes things a little bit.
When I give you my body and you take advantage of it multiple times in a short amount of time, you're either showing me, one, an inability to protect me, in which case I have to protect myself, or you're showing me that you don't care about protecting me, in which case I have to protect myself. And so I protected myself after that, roughed him up pretty good. Nothing to the point where he was injured or anything like that, but just showed him like, hey, calm the fuck down. Like, don't ever touch me like that again, I think is exactly what I told him.
Well, if you don't
Tried
do
to work
shit
with
like
him a
that,
little bit
though-
more, and he messed that up, and I just took him down and pinned him.
Yep.
And I looked at the referee. I was like, count. I don't care if he kicks out or not. Just keep counting.
Yeah,
I'm not doing
count.
this.
I'm just gonna hold his ass down, and
Yeah, and
it sucks that you have to do that. Like that, people, because like even the little bit we've got to be in the ring, they're like, "How long do you want to be in?" And I'm like, "If you can get me out of there in less than a minute, that would be great." Because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm not trying to A, make the match look bad, or B, like make anything you guys are doing look bad. So let's do something quick. We'll get what we came to do, and then get me the fuck out of here. Like I can't imagine going into like a match against someone like you not knowing what the fuck I'm doing, or at least having the balls to be like, hey, maybe I'm not ready for this one yet. Like maybe let's not go this route, because I don't understand that mindset.
I don't get it either. And I sometimes guys get nervous. Like guys are, this happens sometimes, and I've come to accept it now without really understanding it. But guys feel the way about me that you guys felt when you first met me. Like, I don't want to fuck with this. Like, and it's not, I don't try to exude that. Like, it's just my face. Like,
Yeah.
I have resting bitch face at all times.
It's more you have that aura about you. Like I said, like you look important. You look like a wrestler.
He is important, Jared. Way to go, dick.
But you look the part. Like you have that look where you walk into a room and it's like, oh shit, there's Brandon Day. Like that's pretty fucking cool. Like that was more the vibe that I got from it. Not that like it was more just like respect more than it was anything of like, oh, we're just gonna walk up and interrupt this dude putting his boots on to ask him about commentary notes. Like he's about to tell us to go fuck ourselves. That was kind of more the gist of what it was.
Well, and I think, and I've had those moments. I've met guys like, I don't fuck with this guy. Like, I don't want to, like C.W. Anderson, and he and I are friends now, but I was scared to death of him when I met him, and with good reason. Like, C.W. used to beat the shit out of people, like, all the time, because that was what he did.
Yeah.
And I remember when I wrestled him the first time, I think I was 21, and my knee was messed up, and I had gotten sick drinking the night before for the first time ever. I'd never drank a lot. And my trainer had gotten me just wasted drunk to the point where I was like, I've never been so sick in my life.
That's the worst.
I couldn't drink or see cranberry juice for years afterwards. It was so bad. And that's an hour-long story to get to all of that. But I was just like, and now I got to wrestle C.W. Anderson, who I'm already scared of at this point. And I mean, we walk in the door and Sean's like, hey, he's hungover. We were drinking last night. I'm like, Jesus
Fake
Christ.
asshole.
Like, I didn't need him to throw fuel on the fire or whatever. Thankfully, CW and I have always had really good matches. So like we've always been super cool ever since that first match. And I think that's what happens with a lot of guys is if I can go out there with you and have a good match and it wasn't a pain in the ass to deal with, we're going to be cool forever. Yeah. You know, there's never going to be a problem. I can see you 10 years from now and go, I've worked with that guy before. we can do that again. Like that's fine. And I'll do that for guys that it wasn't so easy to get through the first time. But, you know, just take pride in what you're doing. Like that's the thing that I want to get across with my school. That's what I want to get across with any event that I'm on, with any event that I'm planning. This may not be everybody's job. If you're a weekend warrior and you're just doing this for fun and you're just having something to do on a weekend once or twice a month, and that's all you ever aspire to be. I used to hate those people. I used to think that they shouldn't be in the wrestling business. Over time, I've realized like there is a place for that person. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be your everything. But when you're here, you still treat it like it's your job, because for some of us, it is.
Absolutely.
And so I need you to take it seriously. I need to take, you know, we had an incident in a locker room not too long ago where some veteran guys were yelling at some younger guys. And it was the same stuff that always gets said to this particular group of people. But like, hey, when we tell you that we need you to go to the gym, it's not because I want you to look like Hulk Hogan. I need you to not hurt me. Yeah. I need you to be able to pick me up and hold me, or hold yourself up when I go to pick you up, like just real simple stuff. I need you to not be dying and gasping for air 30 seconds into a match. We've got 20 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So taking that, like, and guys get into this in weird ways that didn't used to exist back in the day. And it's too easy to get into pro wrestling, in my opinion. I think that, like, not that we should be gatekeeping to the point of where we were breaking guys' legs the first day they came into training and stuff like that. But
for
hey,
your
I don't
sake,
think this
you
is for
kind of
you.
have to.
At a certain point, you do.
Leave those people out. Like,
and I've seen plenty of people that I never thought would make it stick it out, and been super impressed by their ability to, I talked about Paris earlier. I gave her 3 weeks when I first signed her up for training. I was like, she's going to be done. She's not going to make it. And we're 2.5 years later, and she's getting work all over the place that I'm not even helping her with. She's doing it on her own, and that means more to me than any accomplishment I could have. If I get to see my guys be successful, I don't want to take credit for it, but I can have that proud dad moment of, I had a small hand in helping get this person ready, and then they had to do all the work themselves. But I put them in a position where they could be successful. And that's how my legacy lives on. I'm not going to end up in the WWE Hall of Fame. I don't really want to. I don't want to work that schedule. I don't want to deal with some of that stuff. I used to think that that's what I wanted. I just want to make a living at pro wrestling and leave it better than I found it. That's my real goal.
Hell yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a fantastic job, and obviously the passion you have behind it, and hearing your kind of story, how you got into it, you're training people the way I assume you wish you were trained at the beginning, and it probably would have changed the course of what you're doing. So now you can kind of take that pride and, like you said, bettering the wrestling world and kind of doing it the right way.
Yep. That's it. Doing it the right way. Just, what is it? The rising tide raises all ships, right?
Absolutely.
So if I can make my little corner of the world better, then those guys can go out and make whatever corners they find better. I get mad about stuff. I get upset about stuff. I fixate on stuff because I want it to be good. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it does for me personally. I want to benefit from it, right? I want to make money. I want to be the top guy, but guys that complain about their spots, I want to be the top guy too, but I want to earn it. If you're better than me, then I need to do something else. I need to do something that makes me better. Like, don't just bitch about it and politic about it and ask your buddy for a favor. Do something about it.
Well, you can go out there and put on that match that makes that promoter wish that he would have put you as the top guy. And he's going, well, fuck, how the hell is anybody else going to follow that? And then from now on, I bet you're thought of very differently. So you use that energy to better your product, and you put on the show and go, all right, good luck, boys. Have fun. And move on about your night. And you just fucked everybody else and put yourself over just by doing your job better.
Yep. Just taking it seriously and doing whatever's, I mean, I'm doing commentary now too. And that's actually the most fun I've ever had in wrestling.
It's a blast. It's the best.
It's wonderful. And I get to wrestle at the same time. I mean, I'm doing, so I
did
did color for Exodus Pro. What's that?
You commentated Usual Suspects.
Yep. I've commentated both of the Exodus live streams that have been on the NWA YouTube. And I wrestled on the first one. I got up in the middle, took my shirt off and my pants and went and wrestled. And I came back and sat down. And then I'm also doing color commentary at War right now as well. And it's fun. And I get to contribute in a different way, which is fun for me too. Like, I get to bring a different perspective to that element where other guys, if they haven't had the in-ring experience like I have, or they haven't had some of the experiences I've had out in the world of wrestling, like, I get to bring that to a different place, and I get to set myself up for a retirement plan at some point, where I don't have to get beat up so much, and I can still contribute to the wrestling business and help get other guys over.
Yeah. Then you just get to enjoy the shit out of it, and you still get to do what you love.
Absolutely.
Well, hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We kept you.
Sorry, we held you longer than we told you. But
I kind of knew when this started I wasn't going to shut up. So
that's what we want, though. I'm so happy you decided to come on and hang out with us. But once again, please promote everything you have, and that way people know where to find you and how to get to your school and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Unchained Wrestling Academy at Venue 18 in Fostoria, Ohio. You can get us on Facebook or on Instagram at Unchained Wrestling Academy. And then Christmas Chaos will be on December 21st at the venue, 6 p.m. Doors open, 7 p.m. bell time. It's donation at the door. We're suggesting $5 per person, but it's pay what you can. So if you can only afford $1, you know, it goes towards a good cause. We're very privileged and happy to have gotten a couple sponsors on board that have kind of taken care of basically the payroll for the event. I've got some people that are donating their time basically to help us with that event. So that's an awesome thing as well. And trying to turn that into a regular thing out of that venue, giving, and I'm trying to bring in, there's a lot of wrestling out there. And I don't want to use the same guys that everybody else is using. I want to have a show that stands out, that's different. So, I'm going to be on it because,
your show.
That's my show.
Why would you not?
I'm going to bring in guys, I'm bringing in guys from St. Louis, and I'm bringing in young guys from other wrestling schools that I know they're trainers and I trust their trainers, and I want to give them opportunities and just putting us in a place to be successful. So you can find all of those things. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram's Unchained King Day. We've got that coming up on the 21st. I have War Wrestling doing commentary this Saturday in Lima, Ohio, CIW in Toledo on Sunday. And then I think I have 3 or 4 more shows this month, but I honestly can't tell you when and where. I live week to week.
When we get there.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Have a good rest of your night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
At this time, I don't have a graphic. I'm sorry.
You don't have a graphic? Way to go.
Nope. I did not. I have a fall one, but it's not fall anymore, so I'm not using it.
Well, I'll just go from memory. How about that?
Perfect.
Let's thank our gold sponsors for letting us do what we do. Wabash Valley Plumbing, Wabash Valley Dalton Teen Challenge, Pappy's Barbecue, Peak Performance Gym, RJ's Formal Wear, U.S. Lawns of Terre Haute, Stitched Embroidery and Apparel, and Herald Beauty Academy. Thank you, everyone. With that, Red Velvet and Uncle Lump, we're out of here. Keep pushing. Love you.
Love you.